I want to talk about friendship, okay?
Okay.
So there's an article by Psychology Today that says emotional neglect can keep your adult friendships lacking. Okay, so emotional neglect, like how?
Mm-hmm.
Like when? Emotional neglect, like currently affects your friendships. The author is talking about an emotional neglect as a kid. So
Okay.
your parents emotionally neglected you. And not necessarily on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're not going to demonize all parents. Sometimes it's just they didn't mean to, and they just weren't able to see all of your emotional needs. So she asks, do you, and she gives a bullet point list, notice your friendships tend to fizzle out or drift apart? Do you feel drained after spending time with friends? Do you feel taken advantage of by some of your friends? Do you have a lot of acquaintances but just a few close friends? Do you give more frequently than you take in your friendships? Do you feel let down by the friends you do have in your life? And do you feel like your friends actually truly know you? If you answer yes to some of these questions above, you may have grown up with childhood emotional neglect. It's something that legions of people experience in childhood, and the enduring impact spills over into our adulthood, oftentimes without us even knowing it. It happens when our parents fail to notice or respond or validate your emotions enough, and the result is you tend to feel useless or burdensome, and so you start to carry that over into your friendships. So you may have, good friends, but you feel like I'm always giving and they're never like giving back to me, or I don't feel like we go super deep as friends. We're just kind of always surface level and we're not really talking about what's important to me, And the author is talking about, well, a lot of times that's because you were, told your emotions aren't important. And so you're not letting your emotions show now. And so you're kind of, protecting yourself. You put a wall up and that wall is still there. And so it's affecting your friendships today as well. It wasn't just back when you were a kid, but you now have that blockage up today too.
Okay.
And so she kind of I'm going to give 3 ways that childhood emotional neglect impacts your friendships today as an adult. One is your friendships feel unequal. So you are treated as your feelings are unimportant. This sets you up to naturally focus on others' feelings and needs more than your own. You might notice your conversations with friends are focused on them. And so I guess it's kind of like putting your friends' emotions above your own instead of worrying about yours in the friendship.
So this is kind of a self-sabotage thing.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I don't think it's on purpose. I think it's just you were raised in a certain way and it's, affecting your friendships, and you can now kind of start to revert that and care for yourself too and care for your emotions too. And I think the first one is kind of hard because I feel like, I want to know what you think, but I feel like I try to focus on my friends, and I don't want to feel like I'm just taking from this friendship, or like I just want to talk about me. And so I put a lot of focus on them.
Right.
But I also have emotional needs,
Right.
Yeah. So what do you guys think about that first one of you're putting your friends' emotional needs above your own?
I've done that before. I don't talk to those people much anymore. And it's hard now because I've got friends all over the country. But for the first time in a very long time, I feel like I have very deep emotional connections with my girlfriends.
Yeah. Yeah. Ron, what do you think about that?
I agree with it that there are times where you're really trying to pull out from them. How are you feeling? How are you? And they're not asking back. And I think I tend to eventually write off those friends.
Yeah.
There's no fun in going, let's meet up for coffee so I can ask you all about your life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I've also been the person who's the only one who seems to be keeping the friendship alive.
Oh, that is the worst feeling.
It's always on me to text or call or suggest hangouts. And so I tried a little experiment with someone once, and I have not talked to them in 15 years.
I did the exact same
Wow.
thing. I was the one that kept pursuing, and I did the same thing. I was like, let me just see if I stop, are they going to reach out? And they didn't.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's not a good feeling. The second one is you don't feel truly known. Your feelings are the most personal part of who you are as a human being. They make you you. And so having you not, showing your feelings to your friends makes them actually not really know who you are, because your feelings are a deep part of who you are. And so you're kind of, like Ron said, self-sabotaging. You're not showing your emotions to your friends because you've put this wall up. The third one is you have difficulty communicating. When you grow up with childhood neglect, emotional neglect, you miss out on the essential emotional skills all kids need to be equipped to be healthy and interactive adults. You might notice it's challenging for you to identify, understand, and express not only your feelings and needs, but perhaps also the feelings and needs of your friends. Without knowing how to interpret and respond to emotions happening within you and around you, it's easy for you to miss the mark in your friendships. So basically, do you know when you have a feeling, do you know what that is? Are you able to, like, for lack of a better term, name it and claim it? You know, like, are you able to name the emotion? Oh, I'm feeling frustrated, or I'm feeling mad, or I'm feeling disappointed or let down, and then be like, oh, okay, that's that feeling. I think I had a really hard time naming my emotions for a long time. I could feel them, and I knew I'm feeling something, but I couldn't exactly name what it was. And so I spent a lot of time with a counselor, like going through not just the generic mad, sad, happy, but other deeper terms like, no, I feel disappointed, or I feel let down, or I feel disrespected, like getting into the deeper root of the problem. So we're up against a break, but I want to talk more about this. She goes on to, how do you handle friendships as an adult if you do have some, emotional blocks? So let's talk about that right after this break. It's 6:38 on Mornings with Brian. Thanks for joining us this morning. Brian is out this week, but we are still here. Me, Ron, and Daria are here. So live. It's not a rewind. We talked about it, and I said, we don't need rewinds.
Nah.
We can do it.
We got this. Ron and I did it a couple times before you were here, and that's rough. Having you here is much appreciated.
Yes.
Yeah, just the two of you talking through a glass window to a room to another glass window.
Yeah, feels very empty. And I mean, I've been doing radio for a long time, but no one realizes just how hard it is to carry a 3-hour talk show. It's rough.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I remember when I turned on the radio one time, it was like my first week gone on maternity leave, and I heard just you guys, and I said, where'd that guy go? Where did Brian go?
I think this was when he had bronchitis.
Yes. I was like, is my first week gone and he leaves? But this time he's on a mission trip, so he's not on vacation. But he's allowed to take vacation too. But it's a mission trip. Okay, anyways, we're talking about friendships. This article was talking about if you were emotionally neglected as a child, you may have some rough times in adult friendships. So you put a wall up because as a child, your emotions were said that they weren't important. And so now you kind of keep that feeling as an adult, and it goes into your friendships and relationships as an adult. I think that this is what this article is talking about. I think there's plenty of ways that you can have these same struggles in friendship, not just because you were emotionally neglected as a child. I think there's a lot of reasons that we put up walls for our emotions to protect ourselves. Maybe we've been hurt before by a friend, or maybe we're just a little bit of a shy person, and that's okay. So we just put up walls to protect ourselves, kind of keep our own internal peace. So there's a lot of reasons. But this article is talking about for, getting more out of your friendship, and not in an unkind way, but like this friendship is also for me too. I'm not just being a friend to someone else, but I need someone to be a friend to me too. And so she talks about some ways that you can change your patterns in your friendships. The first one is to take up more space. If you feel like your friendships are unequal, it's time for you to even them out. Start by asking for things and expressing yourself. Assess how much time your friend talks when you're together and how much time you talk. And you'll probably find you don't talk nearly as much. Start sharing more. See, that's not on the friend. That's on you. You have to start sharing more. If you want to be known and seen, you kind of have to take that step out and take up more space. And it's okay to take up space sometimes. It's not always bad. We don't have to make ourselves small,
Yeah.
You're valuable too.
Yeah. Number 2 is feel. Feeling is at the core of healing your emotional neglect. Start paying attention to your feelings. They're inside of you, I promise. Here are some helpful steps. Put special effort into identifying your feelings, naming your feelings, just like I was talking about. Maybe even just get more, deep. If you have someone in your life that you are close with, whether it's a spouse or a parent or a sibling, you could even ask them to say, like, could you give me some like emotion words? Can you help me try to like figure out what I'm feeling? Like echo back to me some words so that I can try to identify what this feeling is.
That's clever.
Yeah. Like, are you feeling sad? No, I'm not feeling sad. Are you feeling Angry? No, I'm not feeling angry. Are you feeling disrespected? Oh, yeah, that's closer. Yeah, just kind of like go down a path of naming your feelings so that you can really identify what it is. Carve out time each day when you have a few moments to yourself, perhaps when you're driving home from work or in the shower, and engage in the following exercise. Close your eyes, sit down in a comfortable position, turn inward and ask yourself what you're feeling, and then write it down. And it's okay if you don't identify anything either. Just engage in this exercise. It will be helpful enough just to tune in.
Journaling is great.
Yes.
To help me get through some rough times in my life, I recommend.
Yes. I often find myself journaling, and it's like it goes between journaling and like praying. And so it's just like a mix. Like I'm praying, writing out my prayers, and also journaling, and it's just a big jumble.
I can't even read my own handwriting from a lot of my journal
Just
entries.
get it out. Yeah, scribble on there, get it out.
Now, when they suggested when you have a spare moment, perhaps on your drive home, was that in the article or was that you just riffing?
No, she said it. That's what she said.
Because does not she say, close your eyes
Yes.
and turn inward?
She does.
Please don't.
Don't do that while
Please
driving.
don't close your eyes.
I like driving. I find it very cathartic. Sometimes I like, you got your favorite music on.
Yep.
That's a mood booster. Sometimes I'll just drive in silence. I enjoy that sometimes.
Yes. Sometimes if you need to get yourself in a specific mood, like listening to music this morning. This is embarrassing. This morning I was listening to 80s rock because I really needed to pump myself up this morning.
I love 80s
I was
rock.
feeling a little sluggish. I said, this is what I need just to boost myself. And it was really foggy driving, so just need to boost myself up. But you can also do that if you're feeling sad. Brian talks about it all the time. Sometimes he'll just go sit in one of his fields with sad music blasting and just really sit in your feels. And that's okay. And then the third is to communicate with phrases starting with I feel, I want, I need, and I think. So being specific about like, are you thinking this or are you feeling this? Are you wanting it or needing it? I found that was helpful for my husband. He thinks before he feels. And so I have to ask him, instead of saying like, oh, what do you feel about that? Or like, I say, what do you think about that? And then give him time to process that and then go down the feelings path later. But the more you practice these exercises, the easier it'll become to communicate your feelings and needs to others. In summary, she says, your friendships matter, but so do you. This kind of led me to a thought of how hard adult friendships are. We talked about this a little bit, Daria, when we were preparing for this. What's your experience been like with adult friendships?
They take a lot of time to cultivate. The hard thing about adult friendships is you're not all in the same place at the same time. Like for the entirety of my life, like there were people that were close to my age in very close proximity. I had, high school and then college and then you graduate and then what do you do? Especially because I moved away and I lived in Florida for a time. What do you do for friends? And it just really takes time to build up those connections because I think most adults are very guarded. We're all so busy. It's really, really hard. And now I'm in the same position again because I've now moved across the country twice in the span of about 2 years. It's rough. And you, Lauren, I know are in a similar position.
Yeah. My deepest and personal friendships were friends from college because, like you said, you're kind of in that same stage of life. And it's a really intense stage of life, so you're there together. And they now live in different places. They live in Tennessee and Florida, and my sisters live in Kentucky and Illinois. So my closest friends are far away. And trying to find people that you can actually connect with once you move somewhere is hard.
And church is great. We're trying to make friends through church, but my husband and I are in a really interesting phase of life where most people our age are either single or they're married with children, and we're married without children. So that makes it harder.
Yep. Yeah, I got married when I was 23, and it was the same for us. It was like all of our friends got married young and then just rapidly had kids, which wasn't for us. And so we were just kind of waiting around for a while.
Right.
Ron, do you have any suggestions for adult friendships?
If you're a lady, get to know my wife.
Yes.
Dana's great.
It just seems like everybody who gets to know her just loves her. So she's a great friend. For me, I don't have a lot of deep friendships, and I'm starting to get back into cultivating them. We've got a group of guys. We were good friends in our 20s. I was going to say in the 20s, but it was a little later than that. But we get together like we'll call a meeting once every 2 months or so and meet at a restaurant at a certain time, and we just hang out and spend an hour or two. Whoever, when you can make it and when you have to leave is kind of an open house in that regard. But yeah, it's good to get together again and see what everybody's doing, and so we're revitalizing, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool. I think it's also okay to say if there's a friendship that you're really giving your all to, like Daria said, and they're not really responding back, it's okay to let that friendship go.
Finding a high quality person is even harder than finding a person who's convenient.
Yeah, I think I pride myself in being a really loyal person, and it's just kind of a part of who I am. But sometimes loyalty can be to a fault, and you're like over giving of yourself to someone who's not also pouring back into you. And it's okay to let those friendships go so that you have the capacity to pour into a friendship that is giving back to you as well.
Right. We got a comment, someone saying don't be selfish, and I disagree with that. I think it's okay to be selfish sometimes, especially if you feel like your emotional needs are not being met by the people around you.
Yeah, totally. The start of this conversation was you are having some struggles in your adult friendships because you're not emotionally available, you're not opening yourself up. And so now we've switched to how can you do that? How can you be emotionally available in friendships? And friendships are not one-sided, it's two-sided. You can care about your friend, but they also can do their part in caring about you. And if they're not doing that, it's either time to have a conversation or you move on. And that's okay. Well, we need to take a break, don't we, Ron?
Yes, we do.
After this, we've got a Dear Therapist article I got to look at.
We all need a therapist.
We do. It's 6:53 on Mornings with Brian. Thanks for joining us this morning. We've been talking about friendship, how you can have a more equal friendship, I guess, instead of, giving someone just taking and they're not giving back to you as much. And kind of in that vein, I have an article here, a Dear Therapist article.
Oh.
These are fun.
I love these. And it has to do with friendship, which is very interesting. So I'm going to read what this, what would you call it? Writer? This person who sent in a question?
Yeah.
Okay. They say, Dear Therapist, one of my best friends, I've known him since I was 14, is a bit of an introverted jerk. He can sometimes come off incredibly insensitive, rude, and show-offy. And for some reason, he competes with me in life. I'm aware of these qualities, but I attribute them to his very difficult past and upbringing. I believe these experiences have given a complex and somewhat rough edges, hence me calling him a jerk. To put it another way, I have known people who are nice, polite, thoughtful, but have not been there for me when I truly needed them. This friend, on the other hand, can come off as a prick, but if you call him at 2 o'clock in the morning, he will be there for you, for literally anything, no hesitation. He's always been there for me, and I love him like a brother. Here's the problem. My wife can't stand him. Never could. And since he got married, it's gotten worse. When he was single, I could always see if he wanted to get drinks or grab a bite to eat, just the two of us. But now he always wants to include our wives. They invited us to dinner, drinks, concerts, wine tastings, but every time my wife flatly declines, and I end up making excuses. This has been going on for a couple of years now, and I think they're starting to get the hint. We had them over for a big cookout this summer, and they seemed annoyed. My wife, who I have always gotten along with, commented that they hadn't seen us in forever. Oh, his wife. Okay, I was like, what? His wife, who I've always gotten along with, commented that they hadn't seen us in forever. I laughed it off and said something about how busy everyone seems to be these days. But to be honest, it breaks my heart to have two arrogant and tone-deaf but ultimately decent people realize that we're snubbing them. I desperately need some guidance on how to handle this situation.
If you're calling them arrogant, tone-deaf, and a jerk, I'm wondering how decent of a person they are. I have seen this with multiple men in my life where they're just so loyal to their friends. But what they're actually loyal to is the idea of a friend they had when they were younger, not realizing that people grow and change, and sometimes they just don't fit your life anymore because maybe you've matured, maybe you've grown apart, or maybe there's glaringly obvious reasons that maybe this is not a great person to spend time with.
Ron, what do you think?
Yeah, I like what Daria said. That really struck me that maybe that is the cause. You're hanging on to the old friendship that used to be. It does sound like if you find them arrogant and all the other adjectives that they
Yeah.
used, then why do you want them to be around?
Yeah.
And like it or not, you're married to your wife.
Mhm.
So you have to include her in the decision. And if you can't just meet your buddy off by yourselves, and go bowling or whatever, then maybe you won't get together.
Mm.
And maybe sometimes having them as part of a bigger group
Yeah, that's a good idea.
would diffuse a little
Mhm.
of the awkwardness or uncomfortableness that's there.
Yeah, add some more personalities to the mix so they're not so.
Yeah, and don't force your wife to spend time with them because
No.
she's going to be miserable. You're going to have a fight on the way home. Your friend is not going to have a good time. I think you just need to accept that these two people just can't be in the same room together.
Yeah, I think it's like my first thing was, could you just see him alone? Like instead, I know that they keep asking you to do things as a couple, but if you really want to stay friends with this guy, could you just say, hey, my wife's not really like into doing couple stuff. How about we just hang out?
Right.
If that's like one easy solution. The harder solution is having to have a friend break up,
Yeah.
But I also kind of like what you were saying, Daria, there are friends for seasons.
Mhm.
Sometimes there's not friends that are friends for your whole life. And I think we have that kind of the stigma that you're supposed to stay friends with people forever.
And I think men are specifically loyal to friends
Yeah.
they grew up with.
Yes, I think so too. But it's okay to just have friends for seasons.
Mhm.
There are friends that come in and out of our lives for different seasons that have different connections, different purposes in our life, and help us in different ways for different reasons. Like college friends may not stay college friends, but they helped you during that season.
Yeah. And you may have friends based around a certain job you have.
Yeah.
And then you move to another job and those friendships kind of slowly fade away.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have some friends that were, colleagues back in Chicago that, they left the job first and then I left after. And we still will reply to each other's Instagram stories, but we're not as in touch with each other's lives as we used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay. They're a friend for a season and a place.
It happens, and they still added value to your life.
Yeah, but you don't want to be miserable. Like this guy seems miserable, like trying to sort out, do I listen to my wife or do I listen to my friends?
Right.
First of all, your wife comes first. If it has to come down to that, your wife's going to come first. Sorry, pal. And if she's okay with it and you're okay with it, just hang out with him alone.
Yeah.
And hopefully he's not being a bad influence on you, kind of being a jerk. So I don't know.